Coming up on Network Africa. Presidents of Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo set for talks amid tension between both countries. "27 people killed by suspected jihadists in Burkina Faso, plus Sudan's military leader promises the army will make way for a civilian government. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers. The president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, is due to meet his Rwandan counterpart, Paul Kagame, for talks in the Angolan capital, Rwanda, this week to try to resolve the crisis in eastern DR Congo. The Angolan president's office said the talks will take place on Wednesday. There's been a resurgence of rebel activity and heightened tensions between DR Congo and Rwanda. Kinshasa accuses Rwanda of supporting M23 rebels, while Kigali accuses the Congolese government of shelling its territory. In the meantime, Rwandan President Paul Kagame says he wishes for the best, but is prepared for the worst over the row between his country and neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. He made the comments ahead of his meeting with the DRC's president, Mr. Kagame, an approach he believes is the best way forward. The Rwandan presidency tweeted a video of his remarks.
For all of us, for both of us, Congo and Rwanda. But if the best doesn't come, it should always find me prepared for the worst. So that's the first way I approach it. I prepare for the worst, but wish for the best. And I mean it. I mean it to say I wish for Congo the best, as I do wish for myself, for my country. But again, there is no magic solution here for me, other than presenting the facts as I understand them. And the facts have been presented. So it's up to all the players concerned with this program, whether they are Congolese or Rwandans or the internationals involved one or the other, maybe to stick to the facts and find the best way out of this program based on the facts. Not people creating their own facts or simply thinking that they will impose a solution to one party or the other. So that's the only way I can say it. There is no other way.
Elsewhere, officials in Burkina Faso say suspected jihadists have killed at least 27 people in attacks on villages in the north of the country at the weekend. They say 15 people, some of them children, were killed in one attack late on Sunday in Kosi province. Meanwhile, some witnesses claim that as many as 20 people died. In the other attack, 12 people were killed in Yatenga province on Saturday. Burkina Faso, which is one of the poorest countries in the world, has been grappling with a jihadist insurgency that swept in from neighboring Mali in 2015. To education, primary and secondary school teachers across Ghana are embarking on a strike because their cost of living allowances are not being paid. They say the allowance, which is 20% of their basic salary, is essential to cushion them from biting economic hardship. Inflation is at its highest level in 18 years, and the mineral-rich West African country may soon have to borrow more money to pay public sector workers. A team from the IMF is expected in Ghana this week to begin talks with the government on a bailout package. The teaching strike declared on Monday will be observed by non-teaching staff as well. It comes after Ghana's government failed to meet a 30th June deadline set by union leaders during the course of negotiations. Let's get more on this. Joining us now is Maxwell Agbagba, Joy News TV correspondent. Welcome to Network Africa.
Thank you, Joker.
So talk to us more about the day 2 of the teachers' strike, elaborating on the demands of the teachers.
Well, their main concerns is what they describe as cost of living allowance. They say that inflation has gone up very high, currently standing at 27.6%. And so they're demanding from government to pay what they describe as the cost of living allowance. They say that in 2021, when government increased their salaries by 4%, and in 2022, it increased it by 7%. They say that all of these increments have not done enough to cushion them in the face of high inflation rates, currently standing at 27.6%. And you're asking government to adjust their salaries to make up for the increase in fuel prices, to make up for the increase in rent charges that they have to pay, to make up for the increase in the general cost of goods and services that they have to patronize. So they've been saying this for a very long time, and then yesterday they declared the strike yesterday. So the strike actually took effect today. So today, all pre-tertiary basic institutions, when you go to these institutions, schools, although were opened, we did not have any classroom activity taking place because all the teachers stayed away from the classrooms. The Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education have actually directed that the authorities in these schools should keep the schools open, and so that they can still find a way until further notice. But it stands right now, and they've been directed to keep the schools open as the government tries to engage the teachers and find an amicable solution and a way to get the teachers back into the classroom. But the teachers have warned that until their demands are met, they are not going back to the classroom. And they're demanding 20% of their basic salary in what they describe as the cost of living allowance. Okay.
Right, so the Arise Ghana protest was held just last week. That was on for 2 days as well, with demonstrators demanding better standard of living, just like the teachers are asking. How bad is this economic hardship on the average Ghanaian?
Well, for the average Ghanaian, it has mainly been about the cost of living now, the standard of living now, which you see is increasing by the day. And that's mainly has been triggered by the depreciation of the Ghana cedi against the dollar. Many of the people we've been speaking to tell us about the increasing cost in fuel, which is having an effect on basically everything. So people will tell you that a bowl of kinky that they previously used to buy at a cost of 1 cedi 50 pesos has now doubled. People are now having to buy a bowl of kinky for 3 Ghana cedis. The prices of bread generally has also shot up because of the increase in fuel prices. But the argument has been that if you look at the prices of fuel here in Ghana, there are about 12 taxes and levies on the fuel price. And they think all of these contribute to the price build-up. So the argument for some people is that government can actually mitigate the impact of this on the ordinary Ghanaian by removing some of the taxes. Another argument we've also heard is about the electronic transactions levy, which came into effect just some months ago against a lot of opposition from most Ghanaians who really did not want to pay the electronic transactions levy. Many have said that this has brought hardship, on them. There's a general complaint about untold hardship brought about as a result of the increase in cost of fuel, and then inflation, which is, rising. And now we've seen one of the highest inflation rates, which is at 27.6%. Okay.
So finally, what is the government's plan with all these things you've said, even as an IMF team is expected in Ghana to begin talks on a bailout package?
Well, the concern for people, and we've heard the Information Minister of Ghana actually say that the IMF is not a fan of any kind of subsidies. the fear for a lot of people is that if we go into this IMF program, it's likely that there will be a freeze on employment in the public sector, especially. There's the likelihood of cancellation of government social intervention, programs. But the assurance that we've received from the government is that all these social intervention programs are likely not going to be affected by our decision to go to the IMF. That is assurance that we have so far, from the government. The IMF team, you're told, arrived in Ghana today. Discussions are set to begin tomorrow. And after tomorrow, we're likely going to see more and get to know more about the details of what kind of program that Ghana is going to with the IMF.
Thank you so much for your thoughts on that. Maxwell Agbagba, Joy News TV correspondent. Over in Libya, state electricity company GECOL is working with foreign contractors to bring 3 more power stations into operation this summer, but work has been slower than promised. Citizens are being frustrated over power cuts and a myriad other failings by the leaders of the warring factions. When entire neighborhoods of Tripoli plunge into darkness during hot summer nights, the roar of private electricity generators turning on drowns out most other sounds as they pump out accrete smoke from their diesel engines. Even those who can afford the generators find it hard and expensive to buy fuel, sometimes queuing for hours at a time. With power cuts sometimes lasting more than 24 hours, often taking out internet access across whole districts, it comes to affect almost all aspects of life. When the Four Seasons restaurants in Tripoli, no connection to hotel chain, decided to offer free generator-powered working space to students studying for exams, it received a flood of young people clutching book bags and laptops.
First thing is the high temperature. Sleeping in the house amid high humidity is not comfortable, and it won't allow you to read in the house. It is a beautiful and good idea to read in a place with lights and air conditioners. We need to read properly to get the high school certificate.
In Tripoli, several hundred people demonstrated in Matar Square, the biggest of such protests in years. While in Tobruk, people stormed the parliament building, setting bits of it on fire. Although the protests were about other problems too, the main demonstration was called over the electricity crisis, showing how much frustrations can escalate in Libya's volatile political climate. State electricity company GECOL is working with foreign contractors to bring 3 more power stations into operation this summer, but work has been slower than promised. Since Friday's protests, Libya's rival factions have accused each other of ultimate responsibility for the crisis and promised to work to improve the situation.
On a humanitarian scale, when you see families coming, a mother teaching 2 or 3 students without having the most simple rights of teaching them in her house calmly and comfortably, this is really sad.
The power sector has been wrestling for years with maintenance problems, war damage, theft of equipment, corruption, and more recently, a blockade of oil facilities by eastern factions that has cut off fuel supplies to some power stations. Still to come on the program. More from Libya. We meet an artist drawing with his hands and feet. Welcome back to the program. More energy concerns, this time in South Africa, which is implementing a new round of rolling blackouts because of power shortages, leaving homes and businesses without electricity for more than 9 hours a day and risking long-term economic harm to the country. The country has faced severe energy shortages since 2008, and the state power utility Eskom has frequently had to cut power supplies to its customers. The situation has been exacerbated this year because of industrial disputes between Eskom and trade union representatives representing its workers. The new round of rolling blackouts started on Monday afternoon with load shedding, leaving many homes and businesses without power for more than 9 hours a day. Analysts believe while the short-term impacts of the power cuts are causing strife for South Africans in their day-to-day lives, the long-term impacts will weigh heavily on the country's economy.
The impact that it's having on South Africa and the economy, obviously it's a massive inconvenience to millions of people. But more than that, it does very significant economic damage at every level, from small business through to commerce, industry, agriculture, mining, transportation. Every sector of the economy is affected by electricity shortages. The economy is unable to grow because of the constraints of electricity supply, and very important foreign domestic investment as well as local investment is inhibited and placed on hold and sometimes walks away.
To legal matters, James Jr. Aliyu, the Nigerian man arrested in South Africa by Interpol for allegedly being involved in a cybercrime ring, has appeared at the Randburg Magistrate Court in Johannesburg. The court session didn't last long, as a new attorney representing the 28-year-old requested a postponement to consult further and take instructions from his client. James Aliyu was arrested last week in Johannesburg in what was described as a takedown operation by the Interpol National Crime Bureau for allegedly swindling a US-based victim and several others of millions of US dollars via internet scams.
28-year-old suspect called James Jr. Aliyu from Nigeria appeared before the court wearing a yellow hooded jersey. It's his second appearance since his arrest last week in Johannesburg, and he confirmed he did not require an interpreter. A handful of people were in court, including 2 officials from the Nigerian Consulate General in Johannesburg. Appearing for the state was Advocate Dion Barnett and for the accused Rod Montano after the withdrawal of Mr. Aliyu's previous representative at the start of proceedings. Advocate Barnett presented the original extradition request document from the United States authorities, which the defense acknowledged it has also received a copy this Tuesday. The issue of the rejection or confirmation of the identity of the accused was not dealt with at this point, as the defense requested a postponement in order to study the documents presented and to have the opportunity to consult further with his client to know the next course of action. The prosecution accepted the postponement request but asked that the accused be remanded in custody. Both requests were granted by Magistrate Zambani. 28-year-old James Jr. Aliyu is accused of allegedly swindling dozens of U.S. citizens from his base in South Africa to the tune of about $12 million through internet scams and money laundering. And the U.S. has applied for his extradition for trial in the U.S. July the 22nd, 2022 is the provisional date that has been set for the next court session. It is then we'll find out if the defense will be coming in with a bail application or be ready for the extradition inquiry. From the Randburg Magistrates Court, Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Sudan's military leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, says that the army will make way for a civilian government. In a televised speech, he said the armed forces will not stand in the way of a democratic transition and was committed to working towards elections. He said the military will no longer be involved in talks to end the country's political crisis, with its place in the negotiations taken up by civil society groups. But General Burhan fell short of giving a timeline of when the handover will happen. It's a huge concession for the army, which has been under increased pressure from pro-democracy protesters who have been holding regular protests across Sudan. The army seized power in a coup last October after ousting the civilian-led government of Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok. And two political parties in Tunisia have called for a boycott of this month's referendum on a new constitution. The recently formed Work and Achievement Party said President Kais Saied's draft constitution seeks to enrich individual rule and threatens the independence of the judiciary. The secular Democratic Current Party was also highly critical, saying that it threatens the existence of the state. Speaking earlier, President Saied denied that his proposed constitution would restore authoritarian rule, insisting instead that it will guarantee citizens' rights and freedoms. Tunisia's referendum is due to take place on July 25. Well, in Benin, some residents are switching from wheat to plantain flour as prices rise. For small plantain flour business owners, production has almost doubled since the start of the war in Ukraine. With wheat flour becoming hard to find and expensive, some people see the cooking banana as a viable alternative.
Josiane Hodonu's small plantain flour business has almost doubled its production since the start of the war in Ukraine. With wheat flour becoming hard to find, some people see the cooking banana as a viable alternative. Walking through a plantain field just outside of Porto Novo in Benin, Hodonu is choosing the right fruits for her next batch of flour, each plantain branch costing from $2.30 to $11, depending on the number of bananas per branch. Once she finds everything that she needs, she heads back to her workshop to start the process. Hodonu began producing plantain flour back in 2018 at a very small scale, but lately her production has nearly doubled.
Before the war in Ukraine, I produced at least 80 kilograms per month, but now, because of the war in Ukraine, which caused the price of wheat to increase and made it hard to find in the market, I produce up to 150 kilograms per month when the market is on.
West Africa is facing its worst food crisis on record, driven by Islamist insurgencies that have forced millions of people off their land in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, and Nigeria. The region has also seen worsening floods and droughts linked to global warming. The war has disrupted shipping in the Black Sea, a major artery for grains and other commodities, throttling exports from Russia and Ukraine to markets including Africa. Today, Hodonu believes plantain is the way forward.
Generally, we use wheat, which is not local. It's not from here. Now that there is crisis in Ukraine, wheat flour is becoming hard to find in markets, and it's also expensive. But we have bananas, plantains at our disposal. We can produce it, so that's why plantain flour has value.
The start was a bit tedious for Hodonu. She was only able to produce 20 kilograms of flour per month because she had to dry the plantain in the sun. Now using a hydrator, she's able to produce more at a faster pace.
Now let's take you back to Libya. In an incredible world of art, what appears to be impossible is making jaws drop as a young artist draws with his hands and feet at the same time. Take a look.
Using 4 markers to simultaneously sketch different artwork with his hands and feet, or markers taped on all his 10 fingers, Ahmed Mahmood has devoted himself to art and its many forms. The 27-year-old artist, who started developing his skills since he was young, says he's had to overcome the lack of interest in art in his war-torn country.
I started drawing since I was a little kid. There were cartoons and animation that I used to watch, and I was attracted by the design, so I was trying to copy those drawings.
Although sometimes there are shortage of art materials and tools, Mahmood also showcases his talents by drawing murals of famous soccer players on the walls of his city's stadia. While some believe he's a master at his craft, the young artist himself believes there's room for self-development.
I like to have new challenges and new things to try, and I'm still learning, trying to improve myself. It was difficult to improve myself in a faster way. There was no logistics support provided.
The young artist says he dreams of establishing a new form of art or a new style of drawing other than what people are used to.
Well, jaw-dropping, incredible talent indeed. Well, that's it on Network Africa. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.